What's going on, guys? Matthew Moniz here, and this, my friends, is the ASUS ZenBook Pro. It's the UX 580GE, a very special laptop because it has enough power for professionals who need the juice to get their work done, specifically towards people who travel a lot but need a lot of power to do things like content creation, perhaps 3D Studio, maybe AutoCAD, or compile a lot of code. Now, this design is beautiful because it has a very slim form factor. I love the fact that ASUS is using a nice dark blue and gold accents. It makes it look very classy. And as in every typical ZenBook, you have the traditional concentric rings that surround the entire front. The bottom is also metal, and you have 4 pads on the bottom to prevent it from slipping off the desk. In terms of weight, it's pretty light. It's around 4 pounds, so this puts it in line with the Dell XPS 15, the MSI GF63, and even the HP EliteBook 1050. In terms of ports, on the left-hand side, we have your barrel connector, HDMI in, and 2 USB Type-C Thunderbolt 3 ports. On the right-hand side, we have 2 USB 3.0 ports, a micro SD card slot, which is kind of disappointing. I was hoping for a full-size SD card slot, but I'm nitpicking, and of course, a headphone jack. Inside, nothing is upgradable except for the M2 SSD. It gets great read and write speeds, but the RAM is soldered onto the motherboard, and you only have the option between an 8 or 16 gigabyte RAM stick. If you want 32 gigabytes, you're not gonna be able to get it in this laptop. It's using a 2-fan and 2 heat pipe system. It's not the best solution, but considering the size of this chassis, it's pretty typical. Battery size, 71 watt hours, so it's fairly big considering there is a 4K display. It needs that juice to keep this thing powered. Doing basic things like basic productivity tasks, I'm getting about 6 hours of use, 6.5 hours of use before needing to charge, so it gets me through most of my day. But as soon as you start doing things like game or using Adobe Premiere, expect that battery life to shorten. The display, hands down, one of my favorite things about this laptop. It is absolutely beautiful. It's 4K, it's 15 inches, it's IPS, and it has amazing color accuracy. I'm talking about 100% Adobe RGB and 100% sRGB. This is great for content creators. Now, obviously, it has pretty thin bezels. It's not as nice as, let's say, as the Dell XPS 15 in terms of that infinity edge display, but at least you get the webcam on top. At least it will not stare up your nose when you're talking to someone across the world. Sound. Coming out of 2 speakers on the bottom of the laptop. They actually get pretty loud. They're not bad for a laptop this size. They do fill up a room, but of course, if you want the best audio quality, you're gonna have to carry a good pair of headphones for you. Keyboard. Not bad. It's not full size, so if you need a numeric keypad, you're gonna have to get, let's say, an external one, connect it via USB. Typing is not bad on it. I mean, I love the travel distance. It's 1.5 millimeters, so it's much better than the Dell XPS 15, but the keys themselves are kind of squishy. Page up, page down keys are separate on the right-hand side, very easy to access. I get a lot of people talking about this, saying how much they love how easy it is to access those 2 keys, especially if you're a programmer. Touchpad. This is what makes this laptop special, or more like called the screenpad. Basically, this is a second display, and you can use it for a bunch of things. In fact, I actually did a little poll on my previous unboxing asking people what they thought of this feature. Half of them said they think it's a gimmick, they would never use it, and the other half said, you know what? This is very useful because I can drag a window down there. So let's say I'm doing something in Adobe Premiere, I'm editing my timeline, and I want, let's say, my effects box, or let's say I want the B-roll window down there. I don't have to take up my main screen real estate. So it comes in handy in those situations. And even if you don't want to use it as a second display, there's tons of apps built into it that you can use by activating the screenpad key that will get you to things like the calculator, that numpad I was talking to you about before. You can basically use it as a numpad, or you can just completely disable it and never look at it if it's something you won't use. Now, performance is what you really want to talk about. I mean, this is running with a Core i9, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 1050 Ti, so there's quite a bit of powerful hardware in here. Look, this will be able to do things like content creation like Adobe Premiere, After Effects, 3D Studio, AutoCAD, the list goes on without any problems. But your performance is gonna be limited. You're not gonna be able to take advantage of those crazy turbo boosts if you're running those applications at intensive loads for a very long period of time. This is a very thin chassis, therefore heat management is very difficult. To be quite honest, I don't think you should buy this laptop in an i9. I think you're better off looking at an i7 because it never boosts over 4.0 gigahertz, which it should be on an i9. You get around 3.3 to 3.8 when I'm rendering a file or playing games for long periods of use. In terms of games, you can play games on this. It's not a gaming machine, but you have that GTX 1050 Ti, so you're looking at medium to high settings depending on the game you're playing. For example, Overwatch, medium settings at 1080p, no problem. Fortnite, high settings at 1080p, no problem. But PUBG, I had to reduce the settings down to low in order to get good gameplay. Now, since I was just talking about heat, surface temperatures are actually really good, around 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, so not hot to the touch, but it does thermal throttle quite a bit. And again, I am not surprised. There's an i9 in here. You're looking at about a 10 to 15% decrease in performance over a long period of time. Besides that, audio with the fans are pretty loud. This thing does get pretty loud when things are on idle. That i9 needs to be kept cool so the fans are always constantly spinning. And of course, when it's under full load, it's definitely noticeable. So here are my closing thoughts. I really dig the ASUS ZenBook Pro. I think it's a great laptop, but my suggestion is don't buy the i9 version. And this goes for the Dell XPS 15 as well. Get the i7 version, possibly even the UX 550, which is pretty much the exact same laptop as this, except it doesn't have the screenpad. And I do wish ASUS let us upgrade this to 32 gigabytes of RAM. 16 is kind of short, especially for a content creator myself. And don't solder it onto the motherboard. A chassis this size still has a few spaces left for upgradability. So that pretty much wraps up my review. If you have any questions, hit me up on Discord. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram for some behind the scenes. Like the video if you liked it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.